I remember a short haul from Madrid. Quiet cabin, smooth air. I'm not nervous about flying, he said. I'm nervous about landing. Because when I land, I have to confront my sister. And the way he said sister, I knew this wasn't a small story. The meeting invite looked harmless. Just a calendar notification. No subject line that screamed danger. No warning at all. Quick think, 10 minutes. I remember standing up from my desk with my coffee still warm in my hand. The cup felt heavier than usual, annoyed more than nervous. 10 minutes meant clarification. Metrics, a client email, something boring. I even thought about leaving my jacket behind. I was going to be right back. I walked down the hallway toward my boss's office, the kind with glass walls, the kind where people pretend not to look up, but they always do. I caught my reflection in the glass. Normal face, normal day. I knocked. Come in, he said. I noticed he didn't close the door behind me. That was the first thing that felt off. I stepped inside, sat down. The chair made a soft sound against the floor, too loud in the quiet room. He didn't smile. He usually smiled, even when things were uncomfortable. This time he folded his hands, slowly, like he was choosing his words in advance. He took a breath, not a deep one, a careful one. I need to ask you something, he said. He spoke slower than normal, each word spaced out, deliberate. I nodded, still calm, still assuming this was nothing. Do you know why HR flagged your name this morning? The coffee in my hand had cooled. I hadn't taken a sip since I stood up. I frowned. No. He didn't react, didn't reassure me. Just glanced at his screen. The pause stretched. Not long, just long enough to notice some. There are allegations, he said, that you've been harassing a single mother online. For half a second I thought I misheard him. Then I laughed, actually laughed, out loud. It came out sharp, wrong, like a sound that didn't belong in the room. I'm sorry. What? My voice sounded too loud, too casual. He didn't laugh back. That's when my stomach dropped. He turned his monitor toward me, slowly, and that's when everything shifted. Screenshots, posts, comments, threads that went on forever, long emotional paragraphs, words in bold, words in all caps. A woman describing abuse, manipulation, cruelty. A brother who wanted to destroy her life. My name was there, my photo, my job title, my workplace tagged in replies. I felt something cold move through my chest. Not panic, not yet. More like pressure, like the air had thickened. This isn't real, I said. I don't even know what side this is. My boss watched my face as I spoke, not the screen. Me. I hope that's true, he said quietly. But the account posting this another pause belongs to your sister. The room felt smaller after that. The hum of the lights suddenly felt louder. My chair felt harder. I stared at the screen, at her name, at her profile picture. The same face from family dinners, from old birthday photos, from childhood memories that suddenly felt misplaced. My sister. Growing up, my sister was always described the same way: fragile, sensitive, emotional. She cried easily, got overwhelmed easily, needed help easily. I was the opposite, the strong one, the quiet one, the one who didn't cause problems. When she was sick, everyone whispered. When I was sick, I was told to rest quietly. When she failed the class, there were explanations. When I succeeded, it was expected. Behind closed doors, roles get assigned early, and once they stick, they're almost impossible to peel off. I remember one scene like it's burned into my head. I was maybe 8. My sister was crying at the kitchen table over homework. Big, dramatic sobs. The kind that made adults rush in like the house was on fire. My mom pulled the chair close to her. My dad softened his voice. "It's okay," my mother whispered. "We'll figure it out." I sat a few feet away with my own workbook up, silent, waiting. I didn't want help. I just wanted someone to look at me the same way. But when my pencil snapped, I flinched. My dad turned his head, annoyed. "Can you not do that right now?" he said. "Your sister's having a moment." And just like that, the lesson landed. Her feelings were an emergency. Mine were an interruption. She dropped out of college the first time at 19. My parents sat me down at the kitchen table. "She's having a hard time," my mother said. "She needs support." I nodded. I always nodded. The second time she dropped out, I paid her phone bill. The third crisis, I rewrote her resume. When she lost another job, I helped her apply for new ones. When she got pregnant by a man who disappeared before the ultrasound photo faded, I helped raise her child. Babysitting, groceries, diapers. I didn't keep score. That was my mistake. Every time I hesitated, my parents reminded me, "She needs us more than you." Eventually, I stopped arguing. Silence was easier. I left the office later than usual. Not because I had more work, because I didn't want to go home. At my desk, everything still made sense. Screens, numbers, tasks with clear outcomes. Outside of it, nothing did. The elevator ride down felt longer, quieter. No one spoke. I wondered if anyone else already knew, or if I was imagining that too. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. Or maybe I just noticed it more. At home, I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door. They made too much noise. I stood there for a moment, listening to the echo fade. The apartment looked exactly the same. Shoes by the wall, a jacket on the chair, a half-empty glass in the sink. Nothing had changed. And somehow, everything had. I tried to eat. I opened the fridge, closed it, opened it again. The idea of food felt wrong, like my body didn't trust it. I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand. The screenshots were still there. I hadn't imagined them. They hadn't disappeared. Her words looked different at night. Sharper, louder. I reread the same lines over and over, looking for exaggeration, for proof that I was overreacting. I found none, only momentum. I scrolled until my thumb hurt, then kept scrolling. Comments stacked on top of comments. Strangers speaking with certainty. So sure of who I was, so confident in what I'd done. I wanted to reply, just once, to explain, to correct, to say this isn't me. But HR's email echoed in my head. "Please do not engage publicly." So I stayed silent. That silence felt like agreement. I checked the time. Midnight. I lay down in bed, phone on my chest. The ceiling looked unfamiliar, like I was seeing it from someone else's life. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my boss's screen, the screenshots, her name. I heard his voice again. "Belongs to your sister." Sleep didn't come. My body was exhausted. My mind wasn't. At 2 in the morning, I got up and walked into the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. Nothing was wrong. No bruises, no signs, no visible damage. And yet I felt exposed, like something private had been dragged into the open. I searched my face for guilt. I didn't know what guilt was supposed to look like. I went back to bed, checked my phone again. Still no message from her. That hurt more than if she'd said something. It meant this wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotional overflow. It was considered. Around 4, I finally drifted into something close to sleep. Not rest, just unconsciousness. I dreamed I was trying to explain myself to a room full of people. Every time I opened my mouth, no sound came out. I woke up before my alarm. My jaw hurt from clenching. My phone buzzed. For half a second, my heart jumped. Then I saw it wasn't her, just a work notification. Relief and disappointment hit at the same time. In the shower, I stood under the water longer than usual, letting it run, letting it ground me. I rehearsed explanations I might need, sentences that sounded reasonable, calm, professional. I chose clothes carefully, neutral, unremarkable, nothing that could be misread. On the way to work, the city felt distant, like I was behind glass again. People laughed on the sidewalk, argued on their phones, lived normally. I wondered how many of them were carrying something invisible, something that could collapse their life with a few screenshots. At my desk, I opened my email. Nothing new. That silence wasn't comforting anymore. It felt like waiting, and waiting, I was learning, was its own kind of punishment. What I didn't know was that while I was building my career, my sister was building a story. Not with facts, with feelings. Online, she painted herself as a woman, constantly on the edge, always exhausted, always overwhelmed, always one bad day away from breaking. And me, I was the villain, cold, controlling, emotionally abusive. She didn't use those words all at once. She let people arrive there on their own. She wrote about a brother who withheld help, who used money as leverage, who threatened to report her to authorities if she didn't behave. A brother who wanted to punish her for being weak. None of it was true, but the posts were written carefully, soft at first, almost reasonable, then sharper. I scrolled through them late at night, reading like I was looking at evidence. One post stood out, a black and white photo of her holding her child. A long caption underneath. I never thought my own family would be my biggest danger, she wrote. But when you're a single mother, even your brother can become a threat. Under it, hundreds of reactions. Hearts, angry faces, supportive comments stacking on top of each other. I watched the number climb. I refreshed again and again. Like refreshing would change the truth. But each time it got worse. More likes, more shares, more people piling on, like they were protecting someone they actually knew. My thumb kept scrolling, then snapping back up, scrolling, snapping back up. My breathing got shallow without me noticing, and then I saw it. Her post wasn't just sitting on her page anymore, it was traveling. I clicked one share. It opened a group, single mom support group, thousands of members, pinned comments, trigger warnings, people calling it brave. I clicked another, a local community page. Someone wrote, "Does anyone know this guy? His workplace should be aware." My stomach turned. I refreshed again. Now there were screenshots. People weren't even sharing her post anymore. They were reposting it as an image. So it couldn't be deleted. So it couldn't be explained away. So it could live forever. That's when I did something I still hate admitting. I googled myself. I searched my own names at night. Not because I thought I'd find something, because I needed to know how bad it had already become. My name, my city, my job title. Search. And for a sec, nothing. Then results started loading. Not official articles, not news, just fragments. A comment thread, a repost, a screenshot with my name typed under it. I didn't even recognize the person they were describing. The words didn't match me, but they were attached to me now. I went back to the original post, and then I read the comments. Men like that always hide behind being responsible. Protect that baby at all costs. Your brother sounds like a narcissist. Expose him before he hurts someone else. Strangers were finishing the story for her. One comment was pinned at the top. If his workplace knew who he really was, they wouldn't let him anywhere near decent people. She liked that one, I know, because I saw the small heart icon light up next to it. That's when my hand started to shake, not violently, just enough that my phone felt slippery, like I couldn't hold on to it. I realized this wasn't just venting, it wasn't emotional release, it was momentum. People messaged her privately, offered legal advice, offered places to stay. Some even offered money, and they tagged my workplace directly. How can you employ someone like this? Is this the kind of person you support? Do you protect abusers? By the morning, it had moved from strangers to my real life. The next morning, HR followed up. My inbox had a new email. From HR. No warmth, no emoji, no hope you're doing well. Just a subject line that made my throat tighten. Request for meeting. Employee conduct review. My fingers hovered over the mouse for a second before clicking. The email was short. We've been made aware of certain online allegations. We are reviewing the situation. Please do not engage publicly while we assess. No question. No, is this true? Just process. Just a procedure. And the worst part was what it implied. That my innocence wasn't the default anymore. That I was already a risk. I replied anyway, careful, professional, too calm, as if sounding emotional would make me look guilty. Then another message came in from my manager. Not angry, not supportive either, just distant. Let's discuss tomorrow. Briefly, like my life had become a scheduling inconvenience. At my desk, I caught myself swallowing too hard. My mouth went dry. When I tried to speak to a coworker, the words felt stuck, like my throat didn't trust what would come out. I noticed people watching my face instead of listening, waiting for something to slip, waiting for me to defend myself too much. That was the moment it hit me. I wasn't part of the story anymore. I was the subject of it. And behind closed doors, people don't ask if it's true. They ask how bad it will look if it is. After the post spread, nothing happened. That was the worst part. No explosion, no final message, no clear consequence, just waiting. I woke up every morning with the same thought. Maybe today HR would email. Maybe today my manager would call. Maybe today this would turn into something solid, something I could respond to. But my inbox stayed quiet. Too quiet. I refreshed it anyway, again and again, as if staring at it long enough could force an answer out of it. Time stopped behaving normally. Hours felt heavy. Days blurred together. I couldn't remember what I'd eaten, or when I'd last slept properly. I kept opening HR's email, reading the same lines. We are reviewing the situation. Please do not engage publicly. Reviewing, assessing, evaluating. Words that sounded neutral, clean, and professional. But they sit in my chest like a weight. I drafted responses I never sent. Careful ones, respectful ones, too respectful. I deleted them all. I didn't want to look defensive. I didn't want to look emotional. I didn't want to look like someone trying to save themselves. I started measuring everything I did. Every post, every like, every message. I stopped reacting to things online, stopped commenting, stopped sharing. Silence felt safer. And at night, I replayed conversations I'd never had. What I would say if they asked, what I wouldn't say, how much detail was too much, how little would look suspicious. Behind closed doors, waiting turns you into your own interrogator. I checked my phone constantly, not for her, for everyone else, for a notification, for a tag, for proof that the story was still moving. Sometimes there was nothing, sometimes there was too much. A new comment, a new share, a new stranger suddenly knew my name. Each time my stomach tightened like it was bracing for impact. I stopped telling people how I was doing. Not because I was okay, because I didn't know how to explain it. How are you? Become a trap. And normal questions with no normal answer. I started answering automatically. Fine, busy, all good. Behind closed doors, those words meant nothing. At work, I became careful. Not quiet, not withdrawn. Careful. I watched my tone, my posture, my expressions. I avoided conversations that could drift into personal territory. Avoided jokes that could be misread. Avoided saying anything that required follow-up. I noticed how often people said them, my name. Sometimes too often. Sometimes not at all. Both felt wrong. During meetings, I felt split in two. One part of me listened, the other monitored. Was that too much? Did that sound defensive? Should I have said less? I started remembering things differently. Small moments from the past. Conversations with my sister. Arguments I thought were resolved. I replayed them with new doubt. Maybe I was harsher than I remembered. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe she really felt threatened. That thought scared me more than the accusations, because it meant the story was working. Behind closed doors, when enough people believe something, you start wondering if it's safer to believe it too. I checked my phone one last time before bed every night. Still nothing from her, no explanation, no apology, no message at all. That silence began to feel intentional, like she was waiting too, watching, letting the story breathe on its own. I realized then that this wasn't just about what she'd posted, it was about what she wasn't saying. The days kept passing. No resolution, no confrontation, no release. Just a quiet stretch of times where everything felt suspended, like my life was paused, and I was the only one who noticed. By the time the waiting ended, I was already exhausted, and I didn't know yet that what came next would feel even worse. After days of silence, I went to work, not because I felt ready, because staying home felt worse. At home, there was too much time, too much silence, too many open tabs on my phone. So I put on my jacket, grabbed my bag, and walked into the building like nothing had happened. Behind closed doors, routines don't disappear. They just feel unfamiliar. The lobby looked the same. The security desk, the badge scanner. Beep, green light. I exhaled, realizing I'd been holding my breath. That small sound shouldn't have mattered, but it did. It meant I still belonged, at least officially. In the elevator, I stood facing the doors. Not my reflection. I didn't want to see my face. Didn't want to check if it looked guilty. Two coworkers stepped in behind me. Their voices dropped when they saw me. Not abruptly, just slightly. Enough to notice us. Morning, one of them said. I answered. Too quickly, too loud. The elevator felt slower than usual. Every floor announced itself with a soft chime that made my shoulders tense. When the doors opened, I walked out first. Faster than normal? At my desk, everything was exactly where I had left it. The mug, the notebook, the half-finished task on my screen. Normal things, from a life that suddenly felt provisional. I sat down and opened my email. Nothing new that should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like waiting for a delayed impact. I became aware of my body in a way I never had before. How straight I was sitting, where my hands were, how often I blinked. Every movement felt like it could be misinterpreted. I typed slower, deleted sentences before finishing them. I reread emails 3 times before sending, looking for tone, for anything that could sound defensive. I stopped making jokes. Not consciously, they just didn't come. At the coffee machine, a coworker smiled at me. The same smile as always. But it lingered half a second too long. I wondered if that was my imagination, or if this was how it started. I replayed conversations in my head before having them, planned neutral responses, safe answers. I avoided phrases that could sound emotional, avoided personal details, avoided eye contact when possible. Behind closed doors, paranoia doesn't announce itself. It slips in quietly and starts rearranging the furniture. Around noon, I was called into a meeting. Not HR, a project update. 5 people, a glass room. My reflection faintly visible in the wall. As others talked, I noticed something strange. No one interrupted me when I spoke, just they listened. Carefully, too carefully. Not nodding, not reacting, just observing, like they were collecting data. When I finished, there was a brief pause. Then someone said, "Okay, thanks." And the conversation moved on. I couldn't tell if I'd done something wrong or if I'd done everything right. Both possibilities felt equally dangerous. Back at my desk, I caught myself minimizing my screen whenever someone walked by, even though I had nothing to hide, even though I was doing my job. So the reflex was automatic, like my body no longer trusted the environment. In the afternoon, my manager walked past without stopping. Normally, he'd say something. Anything? This time, he just nodded. Later, a message popped up. "Can you step into my office for a minute?" No emoji, no context, just a sentence. My chest tightened. I stood up slowly. The same hallway, the same glass walls, different feeling. People looked up this time, not pretending not to. I could feel their eyes on my back. Not hostile, not supportive, curious. Inside the office, my manager didn't sit right away. He closed the door, gently. That small gesture carried more weight than anything he could have said. "We're not making any decisions yet," he said, quickly, like he wanted to get that out first. "I just need you to understand how this looks." That word again, looks, not truth, not facts, perception. He talked about policies, about risk, about optics. He didn't accuse me, he didn't defend me either. He asked if I understood. I said yes, because that's what we always say. When I left, my legs felt unsteady, like they weren't fully connected to me. The rest of the day blurred. I answered messages, completed tasks, attended meetings, all while feeling like I was slightly outside myself, watching, monitoring. Behind closed doors, collapse doesn't mean falling apart. It means holding yourself together so tightly you can't breathe. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I rehearsed explanations I'd never be asked to give. Imagined headlines that would never be written. Drafted resignation emails I didn't send. I checked my phone compulsively. No new posts, no new tags. That should have been relief. Instead, it felt like the quiet before something else. I started censoring myself in my own head. Maybe I should have helped more. Maybe I sounded colder than I remembered. Maybe I missed something. That was the most dangerous part. Not the accusations, the way they made me doubt my own memory. Behind closed doors, when enough people believe a story, you start wondering if it's safer to accept it than fight it. By the end of the week, I was exhausted. Not from work, from vigilance, from constantly measuring myself against an invisible standard, from wondering who believed what and who was waiting. That's when I realized something unsettling. Even if the story stopped spreading, even if the posts disappeared, the collapse had already happened, not publicly, internally, and I didn't know how long it would take to rebuild from that. I didn't confront her right away, not because I was afraid, but because I needed time to hear the conversation in my own head first. There was time, too much of it, time to imagine the meeting 100 different ways, time to decide what I would say, and what I absolutely wouldn't. I practiced sentences in my head, strong ones, clear ones, then erased them. I told myself to stay calm, not accusatory, not emotional. I told myself this was a misunderstanding, that there would be explanations, regret, maybe even an apology. Behind closed doors, hope is stubborn, even when it shouldn't be. The morning of the meeting, I woke up early, not rested, just alert. I checked my phone. Nothing new, no messages from her, no updates online. That silence felt heavier than noise. On the way there, every red light felt personal, every delay like a warning. I watched people through the window, laughing, talking, living in a world where nothing was on fire. I wondered how many of them had quiet disasters unfolding in their lives, invisible to everyone else. I thought about what not to say, not to mention my job, not to sound desperate, not to remind her of everything I'd done. I didn't want to beg, I didn't want to accuse. Mostly, I didn't want to hear myself say something that would make it easier for her to dismiss me. By the time I reached the cafe, my chest felt tight, like I was carrying something fragile and dangerous at the same time. We had agreed to meet halfway between our places. Neutral ground, public, safe. She arrived late, not rushed, not apologetic. Sunglasses on, hair pulled back tight. Phone already in her hand, screen glowing. She smiled when she saw me. The kind of smile meant to reset a conversation. She leaned in to hug me. I stayed still. Her arms paused in the air for half a second too long, then dropped. We sat, and the server came. Water glasses clinked. Menus were placed between us. Neither of us touched them. Silence stretched, not awkward, deliberate. I watched her tap her nail against her phone. Once, twice. Finally, I unlocked my screen and slid it across the table. Her posts were still open. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. She looked at the phone, then away, then back again. She sighed, not surprised, not confused, just tired. I didn't think it would spill into your workplace, she said. That was it. No denial, no panic, no attempt to explain, just inconvenience. Something inside me went cold. Do you understand what you did? I asked. She stirred her water with a straw. Lovely, even though she hadn't ordered one. I needed people on my side, she said, like it was obvious. I stared at her. That put my job at risk, I said quietly. My reputation, my credibility. She waved a hand. Dismissive. You're fine, she said. You always land on your feet. That sentence hurt more than the lies, because it explained everything. In her mind, I wasn't a person. I was a resource. I never thought people would connect it to your real life, she added quickly. I just told my story. You tagged my workplace, I said. She didn't answer right away. She looked out the window, watched the car pass. They deserve to know who you really are, she said finally. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because something inside me finally snapped. You mean the version of me that exists behind closed doors in your head? She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned forward, lowered her voice. Look, she said, I'm drowning. People listen to me online. They care. I finally feel seen. I waited. Let the silence do its work. And I don't, I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, looked down at the table. That hesitation, that was the moment. Before the apology, before the excuses. That was my answer. After the cafe, there was nothing to do. No next step, no follow up, no closure. I walked for a while without realizing where I was going. The city moved around me. Cars passed, people crossed streets. Life continued. I felt detached from it, like I was watching through thick glass. I replayed the conversation in fragments. Her tone, her pauses, the way she looked at her phone more than at me. I searched for the moment I could have changed, the sentence I could have phrased differently. I didn't find one. That scared me. At home, the silence was louder than anything she'd said. I put my keys down, took off my jacket, stood there, just standing. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. No apology, no message, no acknowledgement. It was like the conversation had already been filed away, finished, archived. I realized then that the confrontation hadn't changed anything. It had just confirmed it. Behind closed doors, clarity doesn't arrive like relief. It arrives like exhaustion. And that night, for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt empty. I cut contact that day. No dramatic speech, no ultimatum, just silence. Blocked her number. Muted relatives who tried to explain her behavior to me. She'd under stress. She didn't mean it like that. You know how she is. I did know, and for the first time I chose not to carry it. Behind closed doors I grieved. Not for the relationship we had, for the one I thought we might someday have. Months passed. The posts faded. New outrage replaced the old. My job survived, barely. But something permanent had shifted. People smiled at me differently now, listened more carefully, trusted slower. Damage doesn't disappear when the noise dies down. It settles. I rebuilt quietly. Therapy, distance, boundaries I should have drawn years earlier. And for the first time in my life, I felt lighter. 6 months passed, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet way. The kind of passing where days blur together and you only notice time because the seasons change. I didn't hear from her, not once. No apology, no explanation. No message that said, I went too far. My parents tried. At first they called, then they texted. Then they sent those careful messages that aren't really about you. She's struggling. She's doing her best. You know she's sensitive. I muted them, not out of anger, out of survival. Behind closed doors, I was learning what peace actually felt like. It wasn't happiness, it was the absence of tension, the absence of that constant mental math. What does she need now? How do I prevent the next crisis? How do I fix this before it becomes everyone's problem? I went to therapy, not the movie version, no sudden breakthroughs, just me sitting in a room, trying to put language to things I'd never allowed myself to name. Enmeshment, guilt, conditioning. I hated those words at first. They sounded clinical, but the more I said them out loud, the more they made sense. At work, things stayed polite. No one mentioned the post anymore, but I could feel what had changed. The way people paused before laughing at my jokes. The way my manager kept things strictly professional. The way trust came back slowly, like a cautious animal. I stopped over-explaining, stopped trying to prove I was safe. I let my work speak. I learned to live with the fact that some people would always wonder, and that I didn't have to chase them. Behind closed doors, I rebuilt in small pieces. More sleep, more structure, more quiet. And then, one night, it happened. A knock. It was late. The kind of late where your body reacts before your mind does. I was in the kitchen, one light on, the rest of the apartment dark. I stood still, listening. Another knock, softer this time. Something in my chest tightened. Not fear, recognition. Because some knocks don't sound like strangers. They sound like history. I walked to the door slowly, not because I was trying to be brave, because I was trying to be sure. My hand hovered over the handle. I didn't open it right away. I listened again. No footsteps leaving. No voice, just breathing on the other side. I opened the door. She was standing there. No sunglasses, no phone in her hand. Just red eyes, shaking fingers. A child asleep on her shoulder. I could hear the slow rhythm of his breathing, see the way his cheek pressed into her collar. And I hated how instantly my body softened, like it remembered him before it remembered her. I don't have anywhere else to go, she whispered. The words came out like a confession. Then the details spilled. CPS had opened an investigation. Someone had finally called it in. She said it like she couldn't believe it, like the world had betrayed her. But then she admitted the small things, the things she used to hide. She'd been missing pickups, forgetting appointments, letting bills stack until they became threats. And her landlord finally did it. A printed notice, bold letters, a deadline. You have to be out by Friday. Our parents were overwhelmed, and suddenly I was the only one she trusted. She asked if she could stay, just for a few weeks. I kept my hand on the door, still holding it, still between yes and no. I felt the old reflex rise in me, the one that says, fix it, smooth it over, be the strong one. My fingers tightened around the handle, and for a second, I could already hear myself saying yes, not because I wanted to, because I'd practiced yes my whole life. I remembered midnight calls. Just this once. I remembered giving in before she finished the sentence. I remembered the grocery aisles, diapers, receipts I never asked to be paid back for. I remembered holding her kid against my shoulder, pacing the living room until the crying stopped. I swallowed. The handle felt cold under my palm. Like a warning, I looked at her. Really looked. Not the version of her in family photos. Not the version of her online. The version standing in front of me now. Tired, desperate, and still. Certain that I would save her. That's what broke something in me. Not the tears, the expectation. Because in that moment I understood something painful. She didn't miss me. She missed the role I played. The one who fixes, the one who absorbs, the one who never says no. Behind closed doors, clarity is cruel. But it's honest. I can't, I said. The words come out quiet, but final. She stared at me like I'd betrayed her. You're really going to do this to me? She asked. My mouth opened, and for a second I almost said, okay, just one night, just until morning. I felt it on my tongue. Then I remembered the posts, the tags, the way she watched me born and called it her story. I'm finally doing something for myself, I said. She cried, accused, begged, promised change. The child didn't wake. He just breathed against her shoulder, slow and unaware, and that made it harder. I closed the door, slowly, quietly, and then I stood there with my hand still on the handle, listening to her footsteps fade down the hall. Behind closed doors, I didn't feel relief, I felt grief, but it was a different kind of grief. The kind that comes when you finally accept you were never loved for who you were, only for what you could carry. I still think about it, first late at night, when the world is quiet. Was I wrong? Is setting boundaries selfish when someone is falling apart? Or is it survival behind closed doors? These questions don't have easy answers. But I know this: love without limits becomes permission. And this time, I chose myself. Some doors close quietly, some never really do. If this story felt close to home, there's another one waiting for you here. This is Behind Closed Doors. Stay.